This is another episode which has more to do with frugality than actual zero waste, but it's still about a free Apple Watch. Just hold on a sec. Hear me out, and please excuse me for using the Apple Watch as an example. It could actually be a free anything. I include it because not only is it a great utility, Apple devices are some of the most environmentally sound from such a large corporation. And this is a channel obviously concerned about the environment as well as your finances. And if you don't know anything about their efforts, check out the environmental report released by Apple, which is in the show notes. They are showing that they are making ever progressive efforts in the sourcing of materials and the manufacturing of their products, especially with something like an Apple Watch. For the record, the Apple Watch is the last product that I bought new from Apple. So while I can easily espouse how great they are environmentally, I just don't buy their products new anymore. Everything is purchased either second-hand or it's basically used until it drops dead. I don't give money to Apple directly other than with an iCloud subscription. I want to add this because I want to make clear where I stand as someone who could be perceived as shilling for the company. At the moment, I don't agree with them politically, as in Apple, so I won't buy anything new until they get their manufacturing out of a certain country that is a little bit emotionally insecure, just a tad. But environmentally speaking, they are amazing. Anyway, free Apple Watch. Back in September 2019, I bought one of the recently marked down Apple Watch Series 3 Apple Watches. I justified the purchase by attributing value to a year's worth of health data that it would collect. This is regardless of everything else I might benefit from by owning an Apple Watch. You know, like completing the rings and getting more exercise, although, look at me. The investment is also assuming I'd use this watch for only a year before upgrading to a later series watch with superior health capabilities, because that is something that I'm very interested in. I know that's potentially wasteful, only having an Apple Watch for a year. That's because I'm interested in getting maybe a Series 6 or even a Series 7, so that would make it 2 years actually. And probably use them both, one in the day and probably this one at night time, because that's what a lot of Apple Watch users are doing. Failing that, I could obviously just sell it secondhand or recycle it back to Apple, thereby minimizing my environmental footprint. I'm still going to talk about the free bit. Hold on. I also justified the purchase by promising to walk more and pay less for my travel costs. I just got this idea that, I could just start walking more in order to pay it off. This is how I'm getting my free Apple Watch. And this is how now everyone's collectively groaning. He tricked me. I haven't. Again, hear me out. Getting around Hong Kong, this might be easier here because Hong Kong is so densely populated, and I rely on public transport every day while I work. And I can travel around Hong Kong with a combination of the MTR buses, which are double-decker, the minibuses, and which are basically like race cars, and then the ferry. But by opting to think more carefully about how I'm spending my money on travel, that's where the free comes into this conversation. It's also where I can attribute more value to this particular device. Now, you could buy a Garmin, you can buy any other health device if it's something like that you're interested in. I'm assuming so because you clicked the title of this to get in and watch it. But by walking more on a monthly basis, I'm saving $20 a month or $5 a week. And I've been doing this since September already. So that's 3 months, and I'm basically halfway through paying off the Apple Watch. And let's not forget, the Apple Watch can be considered an unnecessary purchase. It's a luxury, isn't it? I do know in America, quoting US dollar prices, the Apple Watch is $200. So if you do the math on that, I will have paid off the watch in 10 months. It's not a long amount of time. Again, now remember, this is just an example. You can just get a Garmin watch or whatever if you don't like Apple. But basically, bottom line, I'm getting this device for free by freeing up cash from elsewhere that I didn't think about doing so previously. Now, before you turn off this podcast frustrated with the fact that I'm not really going to give you a free Apple Watch, it's important to consider the perspective that's being shared here. 1, I've created money from nothing. 2, if I didn't buy the watch but kept the idea, I will still save myself $240 a year. Can't complain about that, can we? 3rd, I could invest that money and not worry about losing it because I just made it from nothing. Because I'm scared about investing personally anyway, and I don't want to lose any money. So I could next year take that 240 and start investing and feel more secure in that part of finance that I'm not at all experienced in. 4, and this is the last thing to share, think about this from the opposite end of wanting to make a purchase on something, and that's through buying something on credit. I haven't bought this on credit, and it's important to make that comparison, because when you do buy something on credit, you are paying for it anyway, moving forward month after month after month. Here I'm also doing the same, but actually I'm getting money back. Big difference. The main takeaway for you is to ask whether there is an avenue with your finances, with your expenditure, as to where you can make money from nothing and from without incurring a penalty. Don't tell me that walking is a penalty, you lazy. I actually thought not catching a minibus would make a difference in terms of making my job more difficult, but it hasn't really. All I have to do is just leave my house 5 or 10 minutes earlier on any given workday, and that's just to catch an earlier train in order to walk instead of catching that bus. You see how the trick convenience has reared its head again? The previous videos have touched on convenience, and we're paying extra. Now, I do admit the free Apple Watch is a bit of a clickbaity or headline grabbing title. Sorry. I just want you to look at your spending and find another area with what's not really required in order to spend money. Again, if you've kept a log of your spending, you'll know right away what you could do. If you haven't, this is another reminder to start tracking, especially as we go into the new year. Hindsight, and next year will be 2020. To get an Apple Watch like this is a solid way to quantify what you're going to get by looking at ways to cut your expenses. During this process, I have to be incredibly honest in recording the actual savings that I'm going to make. I have to say to myself, would I have walked this particular route prior to wanting an Apple Watch to complete this journey? Of course, I have a work routine and know for the most part by what means I already travel. So I can't lie to myself and pretend I've reached certain goals when I haven't. I can't just magically make deductions just because I can convince myself, oh, well, I would have walked. I wouldn't have caught the bus or something like that. Now, I'm only doing this with public transport at the moment. You might travel by car, so let's accommodate the car drivers. Is there a way to save money on petrol without incurring extra costs? Now, I'm not a car owner, so I can't get into the nuances of saving money with such a device. But is there a way you could sort of skip a day or carpool in order to bring your petrol costs down, say, okay? Or the actual mileage down, which looks better in terms of resale value. There is a link in the show notes by Gen X Finance, which gives you, dear car owners, 28 tips with which to optimize and try and save money with owning a car. Much in the same way that I'm trying to optimize my ability to get around Hong Kong with public transport. I'm not going to read them out like I did with the last episode because I know nothing about owning a car, so I can't stand here and pretend, hey guys, I'm going to read these tips to you and pretend not know what I'm talking about. The tips do range from maintenance, the purchasing of gas, and insurance. No parking tips though, but hopefully if you feel encouraged by this episode, you will begin to strategize for yourself and optimize for ways with which to park your car and save some. I do have to say this whole endeavor works best when comparing against something that's a regular fixture in your life. So if you don't take public transport and you don't own a car, it's just that journeying is something everybody does, so the comparisons are easy. But what if you're somebody who eats, say, twice a week every week for 8 times a month? Could you cut back once in that month to claw back some money? How much would you save, and how hard is it actually to do that? I'm going to end on this knowing I could save myself $240 a year. I feel motivated to keep doing it. It isn't as hard as I thought, and even when I pay off the watch, I'm even thinking, can I keep doing it to claw back on some other expenses that I made? So for example, I bought some Beats Pro headphones, and this is actually my second pair because I lost my first pair within like 2 days. So I basically wasted $2,000. Hong Kong dollars, by the way. And that's about the same as an Apple Watch in terms of US dollars. But could I spend another 10 months to recoup the costs of having lost that first pair? You see how my thinking is now beginning to find other ways to get money back? Because I could just stop and just keep catching the bus again. But there's an ability there, but there's an avenue where I can save some more money. There we are. Thanks for listening.